to talk about this zero action vision. What is that, and how it works? So the way I look at the autonomous field is and autonomous driving consists of two major subsystems. One is the brain of the car, which is perception engine and navigation, and then the other one, sensing system. So in the perception engine, the way we would help it to avoid accidents is that we provide more time. We have to provide more time to it, and then also we need to have a lot more reliable data, so the perception engine can actually trust the data. So that's kind of a logical framework. It's not something magical, I say. So we need more time for the perception engine to take actions, and then we have to give it a lot more reliable data. Now, in the more time paradigm, if you will, we need to kind of extend the range of the sensors, so that the sensors can actually pick up things farther ahead. On the short range, when there could be many moving objects or targets, if you will, we need to pick up really subtle movements. And it's very similar to the sports. You know, if you watch a sport and you want to see what actually happened, you go to slow motion. And the reason you can go to slow motion because you can have many more frames to look at the subtle movements. And so we need to increase the frame rate quite a bit in terms of to pick up all those intentions, and so that perception engine has consecutive information about what's happening. And I'll talk about these a little bit more, but on the reliability is, of course, is self-explaining. How do we translate all of this into requirements? So I need more time, I need more reliability, but what does that mean? If we look at country roads, which I used to live in the countryside quite a bit, you know, in the Midwest, and people don't drive. So I mean, if you look at the perception engine, the time that is considered kind of standard is 7+ seconds, for the perception engine to react properly, and that means that if there are two cars approaching each other, you're looking at about 35-40 miles an hour. That gives you if you want 7 seconds, that it means that you have to pick up the other target about 250 meters. So that's kind of how the 250 meter comes about. And that is not what happens on the crashes. And they're not going 35-40 miles an hour. They're going much faster. I've driven on those roads. And I'm guilty of some of those. But so if you say, okay, now if it is not 30 or 40 miles an hour, it's like if it is 70 or 80 miles an hour, then how would that look like? So then you need 500 meters or more.
Okay.
To get you to 7 seconds. So that's how we came about the 500 meter range. One of the other interesting things that we also paid attention to from the get-go was AAA in 2019 came out with a study for ADAS system, and basically it said that essentially all the cars with the ADAS system, when they were turning into a corner with the speed of 15 miles per hour, they actually hit all their pedestrians. I mean, they couldn't avoid them. They hit them all. They missed them. Also, that's one aspect of it, but the other aspect of it is that if a car wants to cross the traffic light or there are no traffic rules, you know, by the time you get in the middle of the cross section, you know, that car could come broadside you. So essentially, we said, okay, we got to look into the corner way before we get there, and how do we do that? And that's kind of one of the things that we are excited about.
Yeah, I definitely want to dive into that in more depth, because that's an amazing idea.
You also talked about being able to simultaneously track many targets at a cross section, and in order to do that, we really need to have independent, if you will, laser beams or LiDAR beams to track multiple targets at a very high frame rate in order to pick up those subtleties. And so that's what the requirement of 100 frames per second has come, in a sense that you pick up movement at 10 millisecond intervals. So, and other part again falls back into the kind of occlusion. You know, there are areas that we need to see through occlusion because there are potentially children walking, or you know, something is occluding the field of view. And camera and lidars are all, you know, line of sight sensing system. You know, essentially that's physics. Some of the really high frequency radars that right now everyone uses at, for example, 77 gigahertz, they're close to line of sight. I mean, they really don't penetrate any objects or any shrubs or vegetation. So, and that's, you know, one of the things that also we pay a lot of attention, unsolved at the center.